Fantastic. We're recording. Guys, welcome to another episode of the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we get to meet and learn from the coaches of our CFE community, learn more about the CrossFitter characters of our community, and learn more about the characters and businesses in our Glen Ed community at large. I'm your host, Greg Skelly, and today we are being joined by Kelsey Albers, Coach Kelsey, Nutrition Coach Kelsey, for a conversation on grocery store shopping strategies, how to make the most out of the experience and how to take all the stress out of the experience. If you haven't yet met Kelsey, she's a wife, a mother, a nutritional therapy practitioner, strength coach, and regenerative farmer, the founder of Ignite, Nourish, Thrive, a health coaching practice where she shares her continuing journey to balance living with multiple sclerosis, being a wife and a mom, and living a radically authentic life. She's also directly responsible for hundreds of jaw-dropping physical, emotional, and relational transformations in people who have worked with her to dial in their nutrition coaching habits. We are so honored. Good morning, Coach Kelsey.
Good morning. Thanks for having me back on. It's always
You
awesome
got
to
it.
be here. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to launch right into it. So again, the topic of conversation today is about how to make the most out of the grocery store shopping experience when we're trying to embark on this healthy lifestyle. And Kelsey has a lot of thought-provoking talking points and things to share with us. So Kelsey, without any further ado, I'm gonna let you take it from there. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So when I talk about navigating the grocery store, I like to break it up into sort of three different topics of conversation. The before you go to the grocery store, the during, and then sort of this like reading label conversation. So for today's purposes, we're going to start where it makes sense, which is the before portion of the grocery store. So I really like to say the most important or the biggest way to make your grocery store trip the most effective is to plan well for it. That way you know exactly what you're going to get. You don't have to try and go off of memory, buying things you don't need, forgetting home and forgetting like you didn't get ingredients for 2 or 3 meals and having to go back. That's a huge drain on your time and is just kind of a defeating way to spend your grocery trip. So the first thing that I like to do is I always plan for the week, right? So I sit down, I get out my planner. Last time I showed it to you guys, Dallas made fun of me for having a paper planner, but I am a paper planner person. So I write down meals on each of the days. And as I'm writing down the meals, I have my grocery list right next to me. And as I look at the ingredients, if I don't know them off the top of my head, I write it down on the list. So I don't have to like check or pick something and then go back. It's all about reducing your touch points and being as effective as possible as you go through your list. From there, once I have all my meals figured out, I think through breakfast, dinners, what lunches can be leftovers from the night before and what I need to buy to make sure we have enough for lunches. Then what I do from there is probably my favorite part of meal planning and prepping, which is cleaning out the refrigerator for the week. So this may seem like an arduous task for people to have to clean the refrigerator every single week, but if you do, really quick and really effective. So all I do is I go through, is there anything in there that is old and I need to get rid of? And I get rid of it. Is there anything in there that I need to hurry up and use up? So for example, I buy those big boxes of mixed greens. And then people are adding, hello people adding. So anyway, so right now for those of you who are just jumping in, so I'm just talking about doing a quick refrigerator clean out, wipe down. Like I said, I get rid of anything that's expired, anything that's going to expire quickly. I either adjust my meal plan and add it into the meal plan, or I go ahead and throw it in the freezer if I know I'm not going to get to it. And then I just take a washcloth and wipe it down. So everything's sort of fresh. There's space in there for the groceries. Oh, my example I was using before is I like to buy those boxes of mixed greens, but how many of us buy a big box of mixed green and end up throwing it away, right? Like I notice if I have 2 or 3 of them sitting in there, I don't need to buy another one. And I work through that. So I don't know, do you do that? Do you clean out your fridge when you're?
Yeah, but usually it's because something went horribly wrong. Like some bottle in the back of the fridge exploded and I had to clean the entire thing. That's happened, more than once, more often than I ever like to think of, but it happens out of necessity more than out of proactive planning. And I think what you're discussing is being proactive about it, so you know exactly what you have versus trying to wing it at the store.
Right. And I think as human beings, we're disinclined to deal with clutter. So if we open the fridge and all there is a bunch of expired product pushed to the back, a bunch of things we don't really know what we have, we forget what's in there, it's not an enjoyable experience. So again, the first time you do this, cleaning out your fridge as you're meal prepping, it's going to take a while if you haven't done it in a while. But after you do it one time and keep up with it week after week, it takes me minutes to do it, if that. The other benefit is like I said, I see what produce I have. And if I already have carrots in there, I don't buy carrots when I go to the grocery store. I just go back and check them right off my list.
Got it. Makes sense.
Huge and very effective time saver, but also money saver. So the last thing I do before I go is I always make sure I've eaten a snack or a meal before I go. I think, G, you referred to this as the biohacking secret.
Yeah, I do the same.
Do not go to the grocery store hungry. It is never going to end up well. You're either going to buy a bunch of stuff you don't need or buy a pack of cookies and shovel them in your mouth on the drive home. And neither one is setting you up for success.
It's the psychology of it. Like everybody's mind space is different when they're in a state of hunger. And so that's why I make a point, if I ever go grocery shopping, I go on a full stomach, because everybody gains clarity and everybody gains it's clarity, and then it's also all of a sudden your judgment gets so much better.
Right.
All of a sudden you make better decisions when you're not in a state of hunger. So going grocery shopping, like the foods you bring home when you're hungry versus when you're not are entirely different. It's two entirely different grocery trips.
Yep. And the foods that you're bringing home when you're hungry, when you're hungry, your body is looking for the quickest form of energy possible. And that's not avocados or nuts or, meat. It is cookies, chips, candy, those sort of things that are going to give your body that quick hit of energy that it's desperately searching for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So those are my pre-grocery store tips. So if we move into what we're actually doing when we get into the grocery store, first of all, always go in with a grocery list. Like I already mentioned, we do not want to get in there and forget what we need or buy a bunch of stuff that's not on the list. I also like to organize my list by section. So I have like a produce and fresh produce, a freezer section, inner aisles, dairy, and then meat/seafood. So that way I know as I go to each one of these sections, I can cross that off and I know I'm done in that section. I don't have to go back, because I take my 18-month-old and my 4.5-year-old grocery shopping with me. And going back across the store to get something is just a risk that they're going to see something they need to have. And then I have to deal with a meltdown in the middle of the grocery store. So
could you give us those again, Kelsey? So when you're shopping by section, what are the section breakdowns?
So my section breakdowns, because of the way my grocery store is organized, are produce, and then I go to the freezer section. And that's a separate section. And then I have inner aisles. So those will be my spices, my salsas, ketchups, stuff like that. Meat and seafood, meat/seafood. And then dairy. And again, if you're doing strict paleo, dairy may not fit with you, but I have a family that is not strict paleo. So we got to grab their cream and yogurt and that sort of stuff.
And so what you're doing is you're sub-organizing. Here are all the things that I need for this week, but I'm going to group them, everything produce first, everything freezer section, and you're kind of you're navigating your way around the store based on that.
Yeah.
Got it.
So however you like to move through your store, however it makes sense for you. My sections have changed. When we lived in the Edwardsville area, I went to a different grocery store than I do out in the backwoods. So I adjusted those sections to make more sense for the flow of that grocery store.
Got it.
So,
okay.
And then the other thing I'll mention too that I want to make sure I point out for the group is when it comes to lists, go with what you're most comfortable with. So the way my family does it is I really, like I already mentioned, I like pen and paper. So inside of our pantry, we affixed a little cork board, and I have a running grocery list there all the time. And the rule is for my husband and I that if he wants something special or notices that we're out of something, he needs to go to that list and write it down. Otherwise, we risk me not buying it. But if you're not a pen and paper type of person, there are some apps that allow you to share them with other people. So as you notice things, you can just add them, and whoever's going to the grocery store can get them. So there are two that I'm going to mention that are specifically for like family lists. And the first one is Cozy, COZI, Family Organizer.
Got it.
And then the next one is Out of Milk. It's like, I'm out of milk. And those are both two apps that you can share, are specifically designed to share lists. The other one I recommend, because I run my business out of it and it's very easy for me to use, is Trello, Trello. And it's, again, an app you can get that you can invite other people to collaborate with you. So a lot of people I know set their grocery list up off of it because they're already in it for running projects through work.
That's called Trello, Trello.
Trello. It's a double L.
Hello. And then I have one of my own.
Yeah.
Caroline and I use the Microsoft To Do app. It's a shared app. We collaborate in the same list, and we have a constantly running grocery, like home grocery shopping needs list.
Mm-hmm.
And we add to it throughout the week as needed. But what's cool is that it can actually remember common bullet points that we have. So we can go and we can just resurrect the eggs that we need again, or the spinach that we need again, or whatever it is, almond milk, whatever it is. We just uncheck it from last week and boom, in
Nice.
seconds, we have the same grocery list that we need, but tailored to exactly this week. It's actually really easy to use.
Mm-hmm. And Trello has a similar function where you can just copy the cards from week to week and have standard foods on there too. So like I said, I am partial to Trello because I already use it, but sometimes there's a learning curve with some of these like productivity apps that something like Cozy or Out of Milk are very user friendly.
Got it.
So, and then the last thing I want to talk about on sort of the grocery list topic, well, I would say two things. Is one, don't buy what's not on your list, as tempting as that is. Really challenge yourself. Make it like a competition like you would during a CrossFit class. Like, can I get in and out of this grocery store and buying only what's on my list? And it can be really difficult. But on that topic, one of the things that I hear, G, both you and I hear as a barrier to eating healthy is the amount of money it costs. And a fun fact is that 35% of food waste in America happens after the food has already been bought at the grocery store. So that means we go to the grocery store, we buy $100 worth of food, and then the average American ends up throwing $35 away, $35 of it away. So if you want to reduce your food bill by 35%, write a list, stick to it. Full stop.
Dig it. I did not know that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah. So and then a couple of other tips whenever we're in the grocery store. So we've already recommended going in with a list, but what happens if you don't have a list? You don't get a chance to make a list. So shop the perimeter as much as possible. That's a pretty standard tip. The freshest foods expire. So if you're staying to the outer limits, not going into the inner aisles, you're getting your produce, fruits and veggies, you're getting meat, you're getting seafood, you're getting some good fats through dairy if that's on your plan. And then you're going to hit the freezer section too, which has important frozen vegetables, frozen meats, those sort of things that help you move through your week. You probably won't be able to, if you're a coupon clipper and you're moving into this real food space, the bad news is that you probably won't be able to clip coupons very often because real food there's, processed foods are what have coupons with them. That's how manufacturers get you in and get you buying their products. But fresh food does go on sale. So check your circulars whenever you're meal planning if you're trying to save money. And most grocery stores have their circulars online. So if you don't get a newspaper with circulars in it, you can just hop on their website and they'll have that week's and sometimes next week's circulars as well. So build in those foods that are on sale to help save you money on your grocery bill.
Do you ever like plan your meal prep for the week based on the sale items that show up in the circulars?
I don't personally, because we have a freezer full of beef and lamb because of our farm and our farming connections. So most of the time what you see on sale is the meat, right? And then sometimes you'll see fruits and vegetables on sale or whatever else. But as a general rule, the time that I spend looking through circulars doesn't equal enough of a discount for me to actually spend the time. Now, I do like, so we get the weekly paper from our little county, and I do pull out the Aldi circular because they have one in there and they're very likely to have meat and vegetables and that sort of stuff marked down. So if it's right there in front of me, I take a look at it and see what they have on sale and build that in, but it's not a habit that
Sure. So for people like myself, or like I don't have a at-home farm where I produce, meat on site. So we have to buy our own meat, and we don't have a large freezer where we mass store them either. So this would be helpful for somebody like me who I'm week to week buying fresh meats
Right.
for my recipes. That's like, it sounds like that's where you would have your greatest savings, is the meat sales,
Right.
more than any other thing when you're building a healthy thing.
Far more. Yep. And it's not uncommon too. So the circulars are put out based on projections. It's not uncommon if you go to the fresh butcher site, they will commonly have things that aren't even in the circular on sale because they have an excess beyond what they estimated for. So be willing to pivot too when you're in the grocery store. Like I will say I do that. I don't necessarily go through the circular, but I always do check sales. And then I'll pivot. Like let's say I need, I don't even know. Anyway, but I'll pivot if I need to, if I know what's on my food list or on my meal list and my grocery list.
Got it. Good tip.
And then I know you mentioned that you don't really have the space to buy in bulk. However, if you do see a food that you like is on sale, like let's say you're like, oh my gosh, I love ribeyes and the grocery store has ribeyes on sale this week, buy an extra couple weeks worth of ribeyes. And if you have space in the freezer, throw them in there. Even fresh meat that you buy, you can put in the freezer and it will last for, if it's in butcher paper, it can last for up to a year without being damaged in the freezer.
So fresh meats can last up to a year
if they're
in the
sealed
freezer.
in butcher paper. Yeah, butcher paper doesn't look incredibly like sealing, but it's really effective at keeping food fresh once it's in the freezer.
So that'll allow you to buy in bulk. You identified a sale, and you could buy in bulk and just freeze and store it,
right?
And that would keep your costs down on average on a longer timeline. Yep. Cool. Got it.
Yeah.
Too, if it's in the cards for you to belong to a membership program like Costco or Sam's, again, you'll save. The problem with that is you have to have the space and capacity to store the bulk items you're buying. So that can be a hit or miss, and there's a commitment up front of buying the membership. But if it is something that works for you, it's something that I think is a great idea.
Good tip. Dig it. Thank you.
So, awesome. So that's sort of what we're doing while we're walking through the grocery store. The other thing I want to talk on or touch on really quick before we go to questions is reading labels. So you're in the inner aisles, you need to buy some canned vegetables or some ketchup, or what are we looking for? And there are a lot of different things we can look at actually on the label. But there are two things that I really encourage people to skip are added sugars and poor quality oils. And those two are tough. This is why I recommend people stick to fresh foods, because these are in so many processed foods. So first one being, sugar. So when we're looking at added sugar, I'm just moving here so I can see my notes behind me. So you can see things like high fructose corn syrup, corn syrup solids, anything that says corn syrup or syrup in it, red flag. Also just the word sugar, but anything that ends in the three letters OSE, things like sucrose, dextrose, those sort of things are added sugar. So it's tricky because if you jump into the sugar label, people like it'll say, oh, sugar's not our first ingredient, because the labels on the back, or the ingredients on the back of a food, go by the amount that is in that food, right? So if the first ingredient, let's say we're looking at ketchup and the first ingredient is tomatoes, we're like, oh, great, it's just mostly tomatoes. But then the next 4 ingredients are some variation of sugar. Each one of those individual ingredients may be less than the tomatoes, but all of them added together might be like this huge hit of sugar.
A chemical cocktail of crap.
So some other, and G, I know you're really big on this one too, but some other ones that are big indicators of sugar are like beet sugar, fruit juice, corn syrup solids I mentioned, dexatrin, ethyl maltitol, lactose, maltodextrin, rice syrup. All of those are indicators of sugar being added.
Those are all things I'm watching for. So anything that's added, fill in the blank, or if it ends in letters OS, it's a problem. It's a red flag. And if you're short on time, that could be a shortcut to identify, do I buy A or B? If B has dextrose, maltose, lactose, whatever, I'm avoiding it.
Right, exactly. So, and then the other one is poor quality oils, and this can be a little bit trickier, but avoid things with corn oil, canola oil, partially hydrogenated oil, soybean oil. All of these oils have vegetable shortening. All of these oils have been processed in a way that is really hard for our body to recognize and digest them. So again, be on the lookout for those.
Got it. All right. Kelsey, is it time to move into Q&A and questions?
Let's do it, yeah.
All right, so we have a handful of people on the broadcast with us. We're gonna bring them in one at a time to ask questions if they have them. So to the folks in attendance here, Jerry, Janet, Kyle, oh, there we go. We've got Mike here too, Don, Marilyn. We're gonna ask you guys, we'll actually open the floor to you guys if you have questions in a moment here. We have some questions that have been submitted ahead of time. So we'll answer those first, and it may address the questions that you guys have as well. So, Kelsey, I've got 15 minutes. I'm hella busy. I got 15 minutes to grocery shop. I need to make something healthy for this week. Right now, I don't care what it is. I just want to get in and out of the store with something that's going to give me a week's worth of something kind of healthy. What should I buy? What should I make?
So if you only have 15 minutes to grocery shop, I'm going to guess you don't have hours to meal prep either. So this sort of goes hand in hand. My recommendation is to so in the frozen section, we have freezer bags of pre-mixed vegetables, right? You can do a stir fry, you can do like a cauliflower, like a California medley, cauliflower, broccoli, and carrots, and or like a fajita medley. Grab 1 or 2 bags or 4 of those, or however many you need. You can either get like a frozen chicken breast, or a lot of brands even have like pre-cooked unbreaded chicken tenders. Grab some of those. Make sure you have some healthy fats to go along with it. So olive oil, an avocado, something like that. And you've got several meals right there. Grab like I said, protein source, variety of vegetables, and then a healthy fat to go along with it, and you're good to go for the week.
Awesome. Next question. Is there any meaningful difference in the quality of food at one store versus another? Like if I'm choosing like Schnucks, Deerbergs, Target, Walmart, Aldi, like does it really make a difference where I shop for certain kinds of food or produce at one versus the other? What is Kelsey's take on this?
So in my experience, the biggest difference is in the produce. So for example, a long time ago, when I lived in Collinsville, I tried to shop at the Walmart there and buy produce, and it would last for like 2 days. However, when I went to Schnucks, I would get a full week and a half out of it. So I do think there is a difference between produce based on individual stores, but I don't even think that's true chain to chain, right? So we live in this tiny little town now, and I still shop or I have to go to Walmart, and the produce lasts, it's fine, right? So I do think that if you find that produce at one store just doesn't last, then it's probably not worth going there. In general, I don't think like there, if you're looking at like the difference in like nutrients in an apple at Deerberg's versus an apple at Aldi's, like No, they're probably the same. They probably get them from the exact same spot. The difference is how quickly they ship them and get them on the shelves. I think that answers the question about the produce specifically.
Sure. I know that Caroline, my lady Caroline, has identified that produce at some stores locally just lasts a lot longer than with others. Like if you get oranges or nectarines from Target, it will last longer. And that can, if you know that, you can shop accordingly and avoid some of that post-purchase food waste that we talked about earlier. All right, so next, can you explain some of these common healthy food grocery terms? And I don't know if you have the list with you there, Kelsey, but we have some terms. We've probably all heard these: grass-fed, grass-finished, sugar-free, organic, non-GMO, free-range. For us people just kind of getting our feet wet with all this healthy eating, what does all this stuff even mean?
So there are two different things at play here. One is a marketing label, and it means nothing. Another is an actual like government-backed certified label. And the one that I'm thinking here is organic, right? So it is illegal for a food manufacturing company to tell you their product is organic if it has not been certified by the USDA. The other one I would say too is gluten-free. If you see gluten-free on a product, I do not believe the enforcement is the same as organic, but because of the high allergy potential and the potential harm of saying something is gluten-free when it's not, you can trust that front label. Everything else means almost nothing. So grass-fed would imply that a beef product has been fed grass for most of its life. Grass finished means that the beef product was fed grass at the end. It's a very common practice to feed cows corn to fatten them up the few months prior to slaughter. Sugar-free would imply that there's no sugar added in the product, but sometimes that's not even true. We could say something is sugar-free, but we add corn syrup solids. So it's not actually sugar, but it is a sugar product. And with the grass-fed, grass-finished, there used to be government backing. There used to be USDA backing to verify that. There is no more. So I could raise my cows 100% on corn and slap grass-fed on the label, and there would be no repercussion for me. Non-GMO, so again, there's a stamp, there's a label you can look at, and that is independently backed. That's not USDA, but there is a organization that verifies that. So you want to make sure you look for that stamp. If something just says non-GMO on it, and it doesn't have the stamp, it doesn't have to be GMO free. And then the same thing with free range. We can say we let these chickens go and roam and eat bugs, but that's not true as a general principle for free range. It means that those chickens got at least 5 minutes a day of sunlight for them to be free range. So, so my recommendation when it comes to marketing versus like a USDA backed label is do your best here. There are several stores that are offering independent verifications now. Whole Foods and Fresh Time are great examples of that. They have their own independent employees going out and verifying that this beef is actually free or is actually grass-fed or grass-finished, or these chickens are actually outside more than 5 minutes a day. But a lot of times they're marketing labels because food companies know right now these are all buzzwords for consumers.
Right, and I find that's important for us to recognize that the majority of these are marketing plays for foods. As is like a pet peeve of mine is when a company brands their own stuff as healthy, fill in the blank, right? I think it's important to recognize that the word healthy has absolutely no backing, definition, certification, credential, nothing. Like literally there is absolutely nothing you'd have to know. There's no bar you'd have to clear in order to put the word healthy on your processed whatever, fill in the blank, microwavable, whatever, right? So it sounds like the terms that would actually mean something to you in practice, organic, because there's some standard for that. Right. And then you said the other one was potentially gluten-free.
Right, yeah.
And then the rest of it is
and then the other
it's cute, but maybe not necessarily, maybe you shouldn't be making shopping decisions based on the other ones. Yeah.
The other thing I will say too, so Edwardsville has an amazing farmers market. If you are concerned about eating food that was raised well with the environment in mind, the best place to do that is to make connections at a farmers market. Most farmers there in a non-COVID environment would be happy to have you come out and look and see what they're doing. Now, they may not, the USDA organic certification is very expensive. And for many small farmers, they choose not to get it because they cannot afford to maintain it. But they still use organic practices. So again, like just because there's a label doesn't mean necessarily anything. A lot of times these come from conversations with people who are growing them.
Okay. So related to this, like how important is organic versus not organic? If all I want to do is lose weight or look better naked, or if all I want to do is have more energy or not be so damn tired all the time, like, do I need to even care about organic versus not organic?
So surface level, probably not, right? So you're going to get more traction from cutting out sugar, eating healthy fats, eating protein, eating minimally processed foods. I will say this though, so to clarify for anybody who doesn't know what the term organic means, so all organic means is that food was grown without the use of synthetic agents, so synthetic fertilizers, synthetic pesticides, herbicides, those sort of things. What we have found is that these synthetic factors can and are hormone disruptors. So you can so my advice is if organic's really not in the budget for you, don't worry about it. Cut out the sugar. Like I already mentioned, do everything else. But if you're really having trouble, like you're having some stubborn belly fat that's not going away, you may be having endocrine disruptors, hormone disruptors from what's on the food that you're eating. So that's sort of this the last 2% that maybe we need to address. But I think as like a large, a big idea, probably not. But it might have to happen.
I got it. And that's fascinating. That the idea that I think we all kind of in the back of our minds, we know and appreciate that food affects our hormones and our hormone levels, and that directly affects how we feel, and that directly affects how easy it is for us to cut belly fat or whatever. I had actually never thought about organic versus not organic being a player in that. So that's been eye-opening and fascinating for me. We also have another question here.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was just going to say too, just because something's labeled organic doesn't mean it's healthy. You can eat organic cookies all day, every day, and you're not going to see the results that you want. So again, organic has influence, I think, on our health, but just because it's organic doesn't mean it's going to change our health.
Understood. Okay. Last question that we had submitted ahead of time. One of our CrossFitters finds himself in a rut. There's 5 to 6 veggies that he knows he likes. That is like broccoli, peppers, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, green beans, zucchini or squash. He's in a rut with these veggies he likes, but he'd like to add variety with others, especially at breakfast or lunch. Tips or thoughts on that topic?
Yeah. So one of the best ways to learn to like new veggies is to add them in small amounts with things that you already like, right? So if you know that you like peppers and zucchini, how about you make an omelet with peppers, zucchinis, you add some onions, and find another vegetable that you would like to add in there. So omelets are a great way to do that, or egg muffins. I'm a big fan of egg muffins because they're portable. And then the same thing with lunch, salads. Okay, so you can make a big salad and just throw a ton of vegetables in it. Throw a bunch that you already like, add a couple that you aren't sure about, add some dressing that you really like, mix it all up, and start to get used to those different flavors and textures that way. And then the same way with lunch is soups. So find soups that cook those vegetables down, and sometimes that change can be a little bit easier to incorporate and easier to adjust to.
Got it. So you're saying start small and experiment with these before making a massive batch of food that really depends on that flavor working out.
Right. And then for dinner too, like I would say to add, I know he didn't ask that he said dinner is easier, but roasted sheets of veggies are excellent. So just throw a bunch of veggies, toss them in olive oil, roast them at 400 for 25-30 minutes, and they'll just kind of melt together and taste amazing.
Love it. Okay, so what we're going to do next with the couple of minutes we have left here, we'd love to open it up to the floor for any additional questions that you guys may have. So a little shout out to Marilyn, Don, Jerry, Janet, Kyle. If any of you guys have questions, we'll do it this way first. You guys can unmute yourselves. So Marilyn, questions that you may have, I'm going to unmute you here also and help out with that. Okay. Marilyn, what questions do you have for Coach Kelsey?
Well, actually, I didn't have any questions necessarily. I just wanted to comment on the organic and the well, I am a food scientist, so I work in all that kind of stuff. So
Awesome.
there are things that I would not buy organic just because some of the sprays and stuff to keep mold growth down. You end up if you have mold growth and they produce aflatoxins, like we'll just say peanuts, isn't a good example.
Mhm.
The toxins that you might find in your peanut butter from organic peanuts is probably going to be worse than the sprays that might be in there. So I just wanted to make that comment. And also for organic, these companies,
Thank you.
they only need a certain percentage of ingredients in their products to be allowed to call it organic. So, if somebody says something's organic, it's not 100% organic. It doesn't have to be. So I forget what that percentage is. And people don't believe this, but you are much better trusting the bigger companies when they put those claims on their labels, I'll just say grass fed as an example, because I have to go back to the farm where the beef is raised and get an affidavit from the farmer in order for our legal team to allow us to say that. So the bigger companies have the targets on their back. So I would trust the bigger companies on those claims. But again, like you guys said, that's marketing. So it's a lot of BS as far as I'm concerned. And I have to jump through hoops to meet those claims, but they're mostly BS. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to take up that much time. Thank you.
That's okay. I appreciate you, Marilyn. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
I love hearing from people that are actually in the field also and like their perspective on this. That was really pretty cool. And thank you again, Marilyn. So we also have Jerry with us here. We actually see Jerry. Jerry, good morning. Good, sir. What questions do you have for Coach Kelsey?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
All right. Well, it's good to see you, sir. Let's send over to Janet. Janet, can you hear us all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Janet, you are on the CrossFit Israel Community Podcast. What questions do you have for Kelsey this morning?
Actually, I don't have any. She's pretty much covered everything that I had questions about.
All right. No worries.
I appreciate it.
Hey, we appreciate you joining us, and thank you so much. Lastly, we'll send it over to Kyle. Oh, I think I hit the button at the same time, Kyle. Let me unmute you. Kyle, can you hear us okay? There we go. Kyle, you are live on the CFE Community Podcast. Kyle. Oh, there we go. Kyle,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you back on the CFE Community Podcast, and you're live with Coach Kelsey. What questions do you have, sir?
No questions as of right now. And she was pretty much very thorough on vegetables. So then that's what my main focus was on.
Hey, cool. Well, I want to thank all of you guys again for joining us this morning. I want to also say a great big thank you to Coach Kelsey for sharing her thoughts and her insights on all of this. If you guys want to learn more, we always have CrossFitIsrael.com. It's a great resource. We'll also be uploading this podcast to our YouTube channel and to other places where you get your podcasting via Stitcher and Anchor. So you guys will be able to listen to this again in future as a reference. Kelsey, any closing thoughts as we wrap up here today?
I don't think so. Just plan, do your best, and just like plan.
Okay, cool. Hey, well, thank you again, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. This is the weekend. It's a great time to actually take what we've learned here today, put it into action. We hope you guys do. Have a beautiful and blessed day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.